Welcome back to Inconceivable Media, everyone. I'm Cam.
And I'm Myles.
And today we're going to continue Undone. We're going to be covering episodes 3, 4, and 5, which is I view it as the second arc, where Alma kind of figures out what the heck it is that she's going to be doing, or what Ghost Dad wants her to do. So, we start with episode 3, where we open up with Alma waking up outside her house.
I think before we start that, Cameron, we gotta ask ourselves a very important question.
What's that?
Are we unraveling this, or are we putting it back together?
Well, I'm pretty sure we are trying to put it back together. Yes, I know what you're referring to, Myles. The whole point is that at this point she kind of has already unraveled, and so now she's trying to put herself back together, which is, again, like the focus point of this episode. Like, so she wakes up outside her house and is like, what's going on? What the heck is happening? And it seems to be whenever her dad shows up, she's just like, I just keep showing up in random places. So he gives her the handheld blackjack game, which of course is the name of the episode. And the whole point of that is so that it will ground her in the physical plane. So with that in mind, are there any big things that jump out to you immediately for this specific episode?
Well, the whole idea of grounding is actually a big thing that sticks out to me, because I know both you and I, having ADHD, we actually use that same sort of technique. Not for the reasons she does, but I know, like, I have Sudoku and Mahjong tiles on my phone, and I can play those games when I'm feeling like I need to distract myself from what I'm doing so I can get back on task. You know, take sort of like a quick break and let the structure of my mind break down so I can rebuild it and get back on the task at hand.
Oh, okay. So that's like me when I play Minesweeper, right?
Yeah,
just something
that's a perfect example, yes.
Just something to just kind of disassociate almost, in a way, to just kind of flush things out and then get back to what you were doing, right?
That's exactly it.
Yeah. Cool.
So I do think that was a really cool introduction for the idea for it. It does make me kind of question about how the director made this show. If he kind of gave schizophrenia a few of the same traits as ADHD.
Whoa.
Or is this an actual thing? Like, that's one thing that I'm kind of curious about, and I kind of want to do some research and figure out.
I feel that because of the fact that schizophrenia is, like, psychosis-based, that there's probably some grounding in reality of this. Of course, it's probably something that gets... I was about to say prescribed, but I think that's the wrong word. That is suggested to you by a doctor, a psychologist, psychiatrist, a counselor, a therapist, someone that says, hey, you should give this a try to see if this helps you have fewer episodes, as an example, because, like, ADHD, it's a psychosis thing as well, just not on the same level as schizophrenia. As near as I can tell, I have never seen you talk to random, nothings in the corner of the room, but I'm not around you all the time.
Well, if I do, I swear they're there.
I'm sure you do swear they're there.
But jokes aside, this does actually remind me of one thing I saw online through my usual browsing of Imgur. There was actually times where they were looking into using music to help people who have Alzheimer's. And they found that if they play the music that the person would listen to when they were younger, it would actually sort of allow them to reground themselves, I guess you could say. So there's got to be something along that line. Perhaps it's just something that they found that was very important to them. So I'm sure if we had somebody who is super religious, and you read them their text, they would probably calm down and ground themselves again.
Right. You find their favorite passages from the Bible or the Torah, Quran, any of those, right? Yeah.
The Sanscripts, the Necronomicon, those things.
Yeah, exactly. Even go reading some sayings from Confucius or something. Yeah.
Yes. The famous man with baseball all wrong. Man with 3 balls, no walk.
4 balls.
4 balls,
It's
yes.
4 balls.
Man with 4 balls, no walk.
But to kind of get back to what we were talking about with Alma and just kind of sort of figuring out what her deal is. Now that we're 3 episodes into the show, are you getting a clearer picture of what she's all about? Like, especially when it comes to what is happening to her?
Yes. It's something that I do want to talk about, but I don't want to say all of it here. So I'll just say like a quick little spurt about it. The way I see this story is one of my favorite ways of doing a media.
Mm-hmm.
And that is through the narration of an unreliable narrator.
Oh.
And I'm loving it because of that.
I didn't realize that was one of your favorite ways that you liked your stories being told.
Oh, I love it so much. My favorite episode in Battlefield 5 single player was the one where you're playing the pilot. Because it's all told from the perspective of a man who lies. So how much of that is the truth and how much of it is a lie? And he even says it right at the end of it. He's like, this is my story. Do you want to believe it or not? Because I'm a liar. So
isn't that Battlefield 1, not Battlefield 5?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, pretty sure that. Yeah, because that's
Battlefield 1.
Yeah,
yes.
it's Battlefield 1.
Yeah, my bad.
I do know which one you're talking about, though, and then that's why all of a sudden I'm like, wait a minute, wrong game. I like that. I like that story too.
Yes. So another game that I love, and I think we're gonna have to review in this one. It's actually part of one of our favorites, Payday 2. One of the characters in it, his name is Jacket.
Oh,
he's the guy who doesn't talk. He's got the
tape recorder. Yeah.
Put
the
your
person
weapons down.
He's like from what the heck is the name of the game that he's from?
It's called Hotline Miami.
That's the one.
Yes. So for those of you who don't know, Hotline Miami is about a sort of it's not sort of. It's definitely a fictional world where Russia actually wins the Cold War. They managed to actually heavily influence the Western world. Mm-hmm. Kind of dominating, at least for sure, the western coast of the USA. And in doing so, they actually have the Russian mafia ends up basically running most of the western coast, including San Francisco, and the cities along the coast like that.
Mm-hmm.
So in the game, you play a character who's kind of fighting for an organization known as 50 Patriots, I think is what it was called.
Mm-hmm.
And what they do is they're actually trying to get rid of the Russians and push them out.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense with the name 50 Patriots.
Yes. So it's a beautiful game, and it all takes place with unreliable narrators. Both versions of the game, Hotline Miami and Hotline Miami 2. And it is such a train wreck that like you have to go through, watch it, and be like, oh my god, I can't understand anything that's happening right now because of how they section out the game, and they put part A over on section 4, and they put C over in 2, and everything is all mixed up. And then when you watch it all, and you're like, this is so confusing, and then you watch through somebody who takes the events and lays them out on a chronological timeline, showing you what is real and what isn't. It blows your mind. It is so good, and I love that in my media.
Now, getting back to Undone, I mean, the reason why I ask what you were thinking is because this was around the first time I watched through the show, that I started sitting there going, now wait a second, what is actually happening with Alma, and what is, what is really, really happening, and what's all happening in her head, all of a sudden she's in front of the kids and she's naked, and she's like, how did this happen? And then it's like, oh, well, I'm working with you in a dream state now. Oh, this is a dream. Oh, thank goodness, because otherwise, this is kind of horrifying. And you're like, wait.
Cameron, I think you're jumping here.
That
happened in season 4, or in episode 4.
Oh shoot, you're right. I'm sorry.
You gotta back up and roll it back.
Oh no, you're right. I jumped the gun into the wrong. Whatever. We'll go back to episode 3. Sort of like just what her dad said. We'll go back to you go back to Thursday because you found a Thai place that you really liked.
Oh, that was a restaurant. I kind of thought he was talking about finding like a menswear store, like a suit and tie place. But a restaurant definitely makes more sense.
What? Wait, so you heard Thai place that you really liked and you thought, what?
Like tie, like a tie that you're wearing.
How did you? What?
Because they were talking about the wedding and such.
Okay. What? I'm just, man, I'm giving you that look like that guy in the comic with like the question marks over his head. I'm just, what?
Come on, man. They're talking about they were talking about weddings. Of course, I'm going to think about suit and tie.
We need to. Oh God, we need to move on because oh man, this is breaking my brain for all the wrong reasons. Okay, let's go back into talking about things that actually happened in episode 3, like the fact that Sam is back in, and that means that all like the pictures and the sofa and everything are back in the house too, but everything's wrong. Or is it?
Yeah. That's kind of because like Alma broke up with Sam, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We know that. We saw that.
We saw that. And now he's back in her house, living with her and everything, because honestly, I'm going to say he wants to. But
well,
on top of that,
of course he wants to.
But on top of that, he was probably asked to. I'm willing to think that her mom wanted him in the picture because I guess she probably sees him as a bit of a ground for her in the sense of keeping her in reality and keeping her from doing anything too stupid.
I mean, I agree with you, but I also feel that when it comes to her mom, there's other reasons why she wants Sam around, which is like that semblance of normal.
Yeah, that's definitely part of it. Like she brings a date and she has a guy with him because,
that's what you do.
That's what you do.
That's what you do.
Like, I feel like I said this in the last episode.
Oh, feel free to repeat it.
Like, Alma seems like the kind of girl who would bring a girl home to see her mom.
Yeah.
And her mom would be like, oh, that's fun. And then, like, kind of push and be like, okay, so when is this phase going to be over for you?
Right.
So, again, it's the qualities of a wasp mom. And she keeps showing them. And because she's a wasp mom, I think she had some influence on this, I would say. It may not come up, but I still think it's there.
It probably is because Becca is the one who keeps going, why would Sam be coming to the wedding? And Alma just keeps going, well, why wouldn't he come to the wedding? He's my boyfriend. He's like, oh, he's your boyfriend again? When did that happen? And so when Becca is acting that way, you definitely know she was not briefed on this.
Exactly. But of course, that's not important. She doesn't need to know about that.
Yeah, but at the same...
She has to worry about her wedding, okay? Let her worry about the wedding.
You're right. That's all Becca needs to worry about. But at the same time, Alma needs to know things. Like, yeah, it's cool. She's happy that Sam's back. But at the same time, like, there's a really big elephant that needs to be talked about. Sam's there under false pretenses. Like, he shouldn't be there. Despite the fact that Alma is happy that he's there because Alma can't remember what she did, it's still not... I don't know. I don't think it's okay. Do you?
From a standpoint where she has, like, a fragile memory, I would say it's important that she's there, or that Sam is there. Because if things change too quickly, that can make her feel really out of place and be that could make a real mountain out of a molehill. Okay? It could make her feel like, oh my god, I'm so far behind on what I'm supposed to know and do. how am I ever going to catch up? Whereas if Sam is there, and then eventually she remembers, oh yeah, we broke up, it could just be less impactful than being all like, oh hey, yeah, we're not actually together, you broke up with me. Because, it's going to be one of those things where it's like, oh my god, what else did I do that I don't remember correctly?
Right. So, I mean,
was I ever actually a preschool teacher?
I mean, hey,
I'm still questioning that right now, but
well, I mean, that's another thing that she does, with getting back to the way her life was before the accident, right? So she goes back to school and she's with the kids and everything, and she's like, "Yep, I've been gone for a while, and it's a short time for me in a way, but it's a long time for you because you're all like 5 years old." But it's interesting because she's acting the way she should be acting. Like the way she talks to the kids is no different pre-accident. But then all of a sudden, a kid asks her if she has any scars, and then she all of a sudden is like, "Oh yeah, sure, you want to see them?" Just pulls her shirt up, which is, I don't know. I don't think that's appropriate.
Well, like, what do you mean?
I don't think that she should be showing off like her bra to the kids. Going all not quite full frontal here, but
it's like the bra is covering her privates. Like, it's not that big of a deal. Like, how many times in like junior high school and high school have you seen kids with? I've seen teachers' bras for that matter of fact. Like a lot of the time.
I don't know if I've. Okay, I see your point, but at the same time, I'm also not sure I remember a teacher, again, just like pulling their shirt up and just being like, "Oh yeah, take a look at this nice big scar that I've got here, and oh yeah, I guess you get to see that I'm wearing fancy bra today. This one's got lace."
You and I went to two very different schools here, Cameron.
Despite the fact that we went to the same junior high.
It's true, and that's why I'm a little surprised, because that happened in junior high quite a bit. So No, I shouldn't say quite a bit, but it definitely happened. Like, I can recall a few instances.
With your teachers?
Yeah, not that big of a deal.
Okay.
I feel like taking it and making things taboo, it just kind of ends up hurting society more.
Fair enough.
It's sort of like when people say when people use the term retarded. Like, I, as somebody in the trade industry, talk about a fan when it starts. Oh, this is retarded. I'm not saying that it's mentally handicapped. Mm-hmm. I'm saying it's very slow. It's not moving the speed it should be.
Or like if you have engines that you retard them by, physically
adjusting a choke.
Yes.
Or using engine retard brakes. Or
that's what I was trying to think of. Yeah.
Yeah. When you gear down to slow your vehicle down,
right,
instead of using your brakes, that's called an engine retard.
Yep.
Engine retard braking.
Yep.
Because you're not actually using your brakes. You're actually using the engine to slow down your momentum.
Yeah, right. For whatever reason, as we're talking about this, it reminded me of the bit in this episode where her dad is just like, just think about it, as if you're driving stick shift, You are actually the one who's in control of what you're doing with your abilities, as opposed to when you're automatic, you're doing it, really, but the car is driving you less than you're driving the car. And I'm just sitting there going, yes, the dad explanation for why stick shift is better than automatic.
Of course.
And you are the one who's driving the car.
And of course she says, well, I don't know. I don't drive either.
Well, she drives, but she wasn't taught.
She wasn't taught
because
automatic.
He was dead.
Or she wasn't taught manual. That's right, yeah.
Yeah. And and of course he's like, who, what do you mean no one taught you? It's like, who was going to teach me? You? You're dead. Thanks a lot. Going back a little bit first to the kids, there's a few things that I kind of like about this episode because of what it tells us about Alma as a person. Well, I mean, there's a few things we should probably get to first, which is how she reacts when she has that premonition of one of the kids drowning. Because I remember when we were watching this, you had like a big reaction to how she reacts when she talks to the parents.
Yeah, and that was like a big red flag for her boss friend.
Well, I mean,
I'm surprised he didn't do anything because he was right there. Like, I get it, but
and it's pretty graphic in a way.
Very
too.
graphic. Like that right there. Like, if they didn't have a PG-16 rating, like that right there should have gave it to them. But carrying on, she has this premonition, and she sees the parents, and she knows she has to do something to stop that from happening. So she immediately runs up, grabs the one parent's arm, and is like, "You have to get him into swimming lessons. You have to get him into swimming lessons." And she does it like so forcefully, and like the only way to describe that is like rolling a natural 1 in your persuasion check. Like, she could have just like walked up or slid beside him like Scott Pilgrim meeting Ramona Flowers for the first time, crushed cup in hand, and like talked to them normally. Like, that wasn't a 1. That was not a 1. It was close. It was probably a 3, but what she did was absolutely a 1. Like, your kid's gonna drown. Your kid's gonna drown.
This is like, okay, we'll look into that.
Yeah, and then she's like,
thanks.
"Oh, maybe get him into swimming lessons." What she should have just done was been like, he looks like the kind of kid that would really like swimming. So maybe put him in some lessons. That way he's prepared for what is going to come.
But one of the interesting things that I feel that also demonstrates, and of course this is something that, again, is talked about in the episode, because I can't remember if it was before this or after this, but her dad talks to her about the reason why he's choosing her to do this is because she cares about people. And he has the anecdote about when she was a kid and they got a call from the school about how she wasn't wearing her uniform because she kept giving her gym shorts to another girl who, it turns out, had bladder issues. And so she was just like, "Oh, you wet yourself. Well, here's a dry pair of shorts." And of course, Alma was like, "I probably just didn't like gym." And, Dad's like, "No, you genuinely care about people," which I think really goes back to kind of what we were talking about in the first episode, where it's like, why is she an early educator? Why is she working with kids? And I think it's because she does genuinely care, and who better to start with than kids? I mean, I don't know, maybe she could also, if she wants to care for vulnerable people, she can always go and work at assisted living homes too.
It's true. Same with like, I don't want to call them special needs, but like serious medical needs, like or serious psychological needs. Things like high Alzheimer's or like Tourette's that are really, really bad.
Oh, yeah.
Or like psychosis and other things like that. I actually know a couple people, one girl in particular I play D&D with, she was actually in that field. And like you could tell from her, it is so emotionally draining dealing with them. Maybe Alma thought about that, but she just realized she couldn't handle that, especially with her attitude. So she decided to go over to the younger kids and that, because on top of being able to, work with people, and they might deliver some emotional baggage to you, or they give you emotional baggage,
but it's not the
same. It's not the same, and it's not like they totally intend to, like a lot of people with these like heavy mental disorders could do.
I think we've kind of covered everything that we need to as far as episode 3 goes. So now let's move on to episode 4, where we're focusing on another thing, it would appear, because this one is all about moving keys, or not moving keys, or not moving them. I don't know. There's a big focus point on keys this episode.
Yes, but we're not listening to the Black Keys.
No, we're not, Myles.
Okay. Just want to be on that same page. Yeah, I almost feel like the point of the keys is, being a focus for her powers. Sort of like wands in Harry Potter.
I don't think that's how wands work in Harry Potter, Myles.
Well, they use them as like a focus for their energy, right?
Okay, so you've got the wand, and the wand chooses the wizard and all that crap. I clearly read and watched way more Harry Potter than you did. Yes, like the whole thing with them is that you have the wand and you have that from the start, and that is like the way that you cast spells. But then as you get more advanced, you don't need the wand to cast spells anymore. You do need them for casting really powerful spells, but you don't need them for just, doing random things around the house and things like that. But also, that's not the point of the keys. The point is that the keys are a thing that she can focus on while she's trying to figure out how to move back and forwards in time. And the keys are moving, except they're not moving. They're moving because someone comes and picks them up. So the keys have nothing to do with her power.
Yeah, they do. They're a focus. This is totally like the wands from Harry Potter. Don't you remember that whole section in the one movie where they're like, you got to do the flicks right. You got to do the flicks right.
Okay.
And then Hermione's all like, it's not Leviosa, it's Leviosa. Ugh.
Okay.
I hate that movie. I hate that movie and show so much. Like, seriously, they call him the boy wizard. He's not a wizard. He's a rogue.
What?
Think about it, Cameron. Think about it.
I'm trying to...
His parents are dead.
What the hell does that have to do with rogues?
Because rogues are all orphans.
Okay, sure.
Now,
wait, is this because of the fact that he has the invisibility cloak?
Oh, it goes deeper than that, Cameron.
Okay.
Think about it. First 3 movies.
Uh-huh.
What does he do throughout the majority of them?
He goes out when he's not supposed to, and he's sneaking. Ah.
How does he kill the basilisk? Does he use magic?
He stabs. Right. He stabs it with the sword.
Yeah.
And then he even defeats the big bad with a tooth from the basilisk as well.
Exactly. You see, he's not a wizard. Sure, he can do minor cantrips, but that's because he's taken the magic not the magic initiate, the arcane trickster feat archetype. He's clearly a rogue for like the first 3 movies and books. Once we get to like the 4th, he's actually starting to take levels in wizard. I wouldn't even say wizard.
Yeah, he's really not much of a spellcaster as he really does not do as much spellcasting as anyone else.
And he's using the invisibility cloak. He uses the polymorph potions and that. That's not wizard work, my friend.
You're right.
That's all the work of a rogue.
Yeah.
The only person that I would consider a true wizard,
Hermione,
in that is Hermione, because she's the only one who has the nose in the books, and she's pushing her abilities through the way a wizard normally would.
And she is the one who is always spellcasting. She is literally the one who solves their problems with spells.
And using high-powered magical items, like that one that allows him to turn back time.
Oh, yeah. So what does this make Ron, then?
Oh, he's clearly a fighter mage. Or a fighter sorcerer.
So he's the tank.
Yes, because he does take a lot of punishment. And he does distract a lot. He keeps that attention on him, probably because of the red hair. And, he comes from a family of 12 people? Of course he's going to get hit a lot.
Right.
He's the youngest boy. He's going to get beat up a lot.
Yep. Right, because he's because the only girl that they have in the family is also the youngest. So, of course, she's going to get coddled, and she's going to, be treated like a princess because she's the youngest and she's the only daughter.
Man, I feel bad for her boyfriends.
So you feel bad for Harry, then?
Oh, okay. Well, in that case, is that...
Because they get married. Yeah, Ginny and Harry get married.
I didn't realize that. But, before that, did she have boyfriends before that?
I believe so.
I feel bad for them because they have to deal with, 10 brothers?
I don't think it's that many, but yes, it is a lot of brothers.
Yeah, so there's a lot of probably butt kicking. You're messing with our sister, we're going to mess with you.
I know she...
But, Harry Potter is the only person that they would actually accept to be her boyfriend, husband, or whatever. Because
he's Harry Potter?
Because he's famous.
We should... Oh, yeah. We need to get back to... We need to reground ourselves with Undone. Just kind of, get back to using the Blackjack book. Oh, right, yes. Because this episode is where she goes and she sees a psychiatrist. And, of course... She still has the blackjack game with her because that is how she's able to actually function on the physical plane. But there's something interesting that I felt when it came to the scene with the psychiatrist is that, number one, it was kind of short. I really feel that there was more that we could have covered with the psychiatrist. And I also feel that Alma could have been more open with the psychiatrist. Like, she's giving all these big, grand ideas and whatnot, and the psychiatrist is like, yes, these are really nice big concepts that we could explore, but I noticed that you've got that blackjack game there. Often people that are suffering from PTSD will use items to create distance so that they don't have to address their problems. And almost just like, sure, that's an explanation. Yeah, I guess so. But the reason why she's using it is the opposite. Her dad told her to do that so that she wouldn't have that distance between people. So that she would be able to, like, actually connect. So I don't understand why she didn't respond back to the psychiatrist and say, or this could be the reason why I'm using the game.
So your terminology is a little bit off here.
Okay.
And it's kind of funny for me to say it.
Oh, okay.
Because it's not that it allows her to be able to connect with other people. She's using it so that way she can keep her timeline in order. And that allows her to be able to communicate with, to just interact with people properly. Because what she has is like with us with ADHD, in the sense of like when we don't have our meds for a long time. I'm guilty of this a lot. Of where like I'll be standing there talking with somebody, and as I'm talking with them, my head just it's like a fly fishing, throwing your fly out, or not fly, your fishing lure out.
Yep.
You take it and you go whoosh, and you launch it all the way over there, and it goes plop into the water, and then I say that whatever I'm talking about, whatever I am.
Yep.
But I'm way ahead of everybody else. And because I'm way ahead of everybody else, they're like, that came out of nowhere. It's not true. It didn't come out of nowhere, because I, in my head, have already went way forward in that conversation.
Okay.
In the sense of this story, she kind of has that issue where she's forward, and then she's back, and then she's over to the left, to the right, and she could just pop in at any time and be like, oh, yes, this is what I'm doing here now. I'm doing dishes. And then she's like, oh, I thought I was doing dishes. I guess I'm washing my hands because I'm in the bathroom now. Did I use the bathroom? I don't know. Okay. Why am I in bed and my clothes are off? Strange. I don't get it. Oh. It's what people think of ADHD when they're having a conversation with somebody who hasn't been able to develop the strategies to cope. It's literally what people see us with ADHD when we're not with our coping mechanisms.
Right.
It's sort of like the anti-coping mechanism.
Okay, fair enough, and I understand that, but my main point that I was trying to get across was, why didn't Alma push back against the single interpretation with a counter interpretation?
Well, Cameron, it's the same reason why we were taught something that we never, ever would think about doing now. And that is, if we have an issue, when we were young, we were told that we should go to the police. And we are not allowed to do that anymore.
Oh.
Officers are not our friends. In fact, if an officer comes up to you, what's the first thing you do?
Not run away. Okay.
You shut the fuck up. You don't say a word.
I was like, and you definitely don't run away.
They're going to ask you a question, and you say as little as possible.
Yes, absolutely.
In fact, in some cases, people will even say, be the person that responds to their questions with questions. Because you don't know how they're going to use what you say against you.
Right, that whole am I being detained kind of stuff. Yeah.
So, it even says on our Edmonton Police website, don't talk to the police.
Okay, well, I mean, as far as what's the worst thing that the psychiatrist could do? She already prescribes an antipsychotic to Alma, and then somehow her mom goes and fills that prescription for her.
So, I think that's really wrong that her mom is able to do that. But what's the worst that this psychiatrist could do? I recommend that you need to go to the funny farm where we laugh and play. And the sun shines day and day. And we all wear our nice white tight suits. In our rooms full of mattresses.
Okay, you're right. I suppose that is the worst, but I'm not saying that she has to tell her that she's seen visions of her dead dad. All I was saying is that she could say, you're right, that is possible that that's the reason why I'm using this game. Or it could be that I'm using this game so that I can actually have these conversations with you and not just be stuck in a void.
I think you totally missed the whole point I had about the whole police officer thing.
Oh,
She's a minority, okay? She is...
No, you have a very good point.
Spanish
and it's
and
not...
like Mexican.
Yes.
And this psychiatrist is a person of authority.
No, you're right.
She does not want to deal with somebody who has authority.
No,
because nothing good comes from that.
No, you're right. You are right, Myles. And it's not that I don't get that. It's, again, that whole thing about I'm white, therefore I have that privilege where I don't see what's wrong with what I suggested. Because if I did it, it probably would go fine.
Exactly. And I look white, so I can sometimes get away with that. And then slap them with the card of, hey, look, you're being racist when it doesn't go that way.
But, I mean, we can move away from that and I guess move on to going back to her mom with, like, everything that she does is so underhanded. Like, she fills the prescription, which has its own can of worms of how the hell did she manage to do that.
Yeah, like, up here in Canada, like, you have to have written permission of somebody to pick up your meds for you.
Well, you need to have, like, proof of guardianship or things like that, or you need to have proof that they're dependent. And you need to have all of that stuff, especially for getting controlled substances, which an antipsychotic abso-freaking-lutely is controlled. You're not just handing that over the counter.
It's not like, here's 60. You don't have a couple extra, just loose from the hand.
Yeah, right.
You know, just in case. There might not be all 60 in there.
Right.
There probably is. There's probably more, but just in case. Here's an extra, like, handful.
But I mean, again, with her mom, it's just so sinister what she does, because when she shows up, she brings the cookies and she's like, oh, I'm trying positive reinforcement. Father Miguel told me to give it a try. And it's like, really? You're realizing that now? That positive reinforcement was an option? What? You just went with the stick your whole life and never thought that you could use the carrot instead?
Cameron, I think you're forgetting that Camilla is the WASP mom.
The WASP moms of all, the queen of all WASP moms?
No, this is what they do.
Okay, fair enough.
This is their thing. They do everything they can to manipulate and control the situation and make you do what they want you to do. Because it's not about you. It's about them.
Yep.
Again, when Alma wakes up in the hospital after the accident, how could you do this to me?
Yep.
How could you do this to your sister on her day where I'm going to be giving her away?
Right. Like, and we haven't even gotten to the actual wedding yet. The wedding is still weeks away.
Exactly. It's for Camilla, this is all about her and how this is going to affect her. So of course, like, I don't know, Cameron. I don't think your mom was a WASP mom. Let's see if we can meet this criteria.
Okay.
1. Was your mom all about tradition?
When you say tradition, what do you mean by tradition?
Like, for instance, I love this one. The men sit at the head of the table. You know, the father sits at the one side, the oldest son sits at the other. Or, like, if it's the head of another household, they sit on the other side. Everybody else sits on the sides.
We kind of did that sometimes, but generally no.
Okay, that's one thing WASP parents do. That's
Like,
a big thing.
I feel like that was
a huge emphasis on tradition. Like, the family has to be together on Christmas Day. Absolutely no exceptions. Doesn't matter if you have your own family. They have to be with me on Christmas Day.
Okay, that was definitely something that we did as kids, but then when we became adults, Mom and Dad were both just kind of like, we can't control you now because you're adults.
Okay,
so
see, that's not WASP Mom.
Oh.
That's very, like, opposite of WASP Mom. Sure, when you're kids, they do that. That's not important. But I'm talking about, like, when it gets older.
Right, okay.
2, did family issues have to stay in the family?
I don't think so, because I was never told that I couldn't tell other people about things that were happening in the family.
Okay, right there, telling me that totally disproves that. Okay, because
how so?
Because if your family, if you let's say there is an issue like, for instance, your sibling, she says, I don't feel like I'm a girl. Your mom wasn't like, say nothing about this to no one. We will solve this in the family. It's okay. We're going to work through this. We'll get through this as a family. But nobody say anything to anybody else. This stays between us. Don't even tell your cousins. Don't tell your aunts and uncles, your grandma and grandpa. This is between us. We will deal with this.
And then instead with the fact that everyone, except my brother, embraced it and said, okay, you are gender non-conforming, and you are using they, them pronouns.
Exactly.
It will be hard, but we will do our best to accommodate now.
Again, totally blows that one out of the water.
All right.
So we got tradition covered. We got family issues stay within the family. You're not allowed to bring that out.
All right.
The third one has to do with, like, upbringing. It's the when raised, were you always pushed to strive to be better and be the best in absolutely anything and everything? And I'm not talking about the things that you thought were important. The things that she thought were important. Like, if she wanted you to be the best piano player, you had to sit and practice for hours and hours and hours, getting that sonnet just right. You get your table, your tables just right.
Yep.
It wasn't just like, hey, practice, and you know what, you're getting tired. Maybe take a break. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking like, you're not doing it right. Do it again. Do it again. This isn't right. Do it again.
Nope. My mom definitely didn't do that. She absolutely, at certain points when I expressed interest in doing something, like if I wanted to be in scouts or if I wanted to doing band, as an example, or if I'm singing and the what, she would say, okay, have you practiced? Have you done this? No, not today. Well, then go do it. And, at least put in the 20, 30 minutes. Because you said you're going to do this, so you better put in some work. I'm not asking you to stay in the house for 4 hours or whatever, but you said you're going to do this, so you need to put in a certain amount of effort.
Again, that's not bad, because it's things that you were interested in, not the things that she was. So, no, I would say, absolutely, your mom was the opposite of a WASP mom.
So what's is there like a fourth thing for WASP moms? Or is there just the 3?
What was the fourth thing? Appearance. You weren't allowed to, like, leave the house with clothing that had, like, a little bit of a rip. Or, like, you had to wear a button-up shirt. Or, like, ties are mandatory and things like that. Like, oh, your hair isn't good enough. You have to go get a haircut right now.
So the weird thing about that is that Mom did instill a certain amount of, you must have some self-respect if you're going to go out and if you are, like, going to go to something where you need to dress up. So if you're going to a wedding, for example, yeah, absolutely, you are wearing your best.
That is a special circumstance.
Yes.
I'm talking, like, day to day, like, hey, I'm going to run out to the corner store to, like, pick up some candy. Or I'm running over to Jordan's to go hang out.
All I can think that I was told, like, wear pants and leggings and pajama pants don't count. Those are not pants.
Yeah, again, that's all 4 criteria of the WASP mom not met. So your mom was not a WASP mom.
Well, okay.
Now, my mom was definitely on that line, but it is what it is.
I get it. I absolutely understand when you explain it, that it makes a whole lot of sense to me, but at the same time, I absolutely agree that I'm not picking up on it immediately because I'm not familiar in that way with it. I'm not intimately familiar with it because I didn't grow up with that kind of an influence.
Again, I'm going to say this, Cameron. You won the lottery. you have a great family, man. You have a great family.
I won that lottery. I feel that there are other things that we can cover about episode 4, but at the same time, we've been talking for a lot about things, and so we just kind of need to keep rolling here. So, we're going to just go right into episode 5 then. Also because of the fact that they tie in really well. So, with all of the stuff about Alma not trying when it comes to the keys and everything, and so suddenly she has that realization that Sam lied to her, or has been lying to her, because she broke up with him, and then the accident happened, and then she's been in the hospital for 2 weeks, and she didn't remember that, because trauma's a thing. They talked about it. So now she's had that breakthrough, but now everything that's happening in episode 5 is just her remembering or piecing together a whole bunch of things that aren't necessarily things that she knows. Like, one of the reasons why she is accepting of what Sam did is because she suddenly sees his upbringing and how much it sucked for him. But how did she know that? Like, she didn't see that.
So, I don't want to use the term educated guess.
Uh-huh.
Like, it fits, but that's not... It doesn't feel totally right to me.
Well, it's like an approximation, right? Or a build.
It's like an educated build. It's an educated world build. Because I'm sure he's mentioned, or the way he's kind of commented when she was like, oh, when I was a kid, I used to do this. Oh, yeah, when I was a kid, like, I got beat up a lot because I was from India and I just came here.
And I talked funny.
Yeah. So she probably kind of could have built that whole situation and said, like, oh, yeah, now I understand you. The brain copes in really strange ways for everybody. I mean, like, what's that one study? That one that's like, there are people out there.
That one study?
That don't have a voice in their head.
Yeah, right. Yes,
like you and I both have that.
Yeah,
you and I both, like, when we're thinking, there's a voice in our head that's running saying, oh, no, you gotta take the fork, you gotta wipe each point on it, and you gotta clean between them, and now you gotta dip it in the water, swish it around, then you rinse it off and stick it over there. Mm-hmm. We have that voice in our head telling us that.
But there are people that do not hear anything in their head.
And it's just like, if we are about to go do something like an interview, we play that interview out in our head beforehand as sort of like an exercise of what are we going to do? What are we going to say? There are people that don't have that. Mm-hmm. And to you and I, that's so strange. Well,
and maybe kind of scary, too.
It's dark. In my opinion, it's dark. But, in this case, like, we're on dimension 3. Those people I'm going to say are like on dimension 2. She's on dimension 4. So,
especially with her seeming able to just reach back into the past and stuff like that. I mean, it ties into, I believe it was in episode 3 where her dad starts talking about effectively genetic memory, about how she knows things about his life, and therefore she knows things about her grandmother's life and her mother and her and it just kind of goes back through the line because of genetic memory, but apparently she can only tap into it because...
So what we're doing right now is crossing it over into the Ubisoft world through Assassin's Creed.
I mean, in a way, right?
Alma's an assassin, or she's part of the order now.
I mean, I was going to say more, but she's not an assassin. She's going back to stop an assassination or a murder. She's going back to prevent a death from happening instead of being the one who does it.
Yes, and they were just using whatever his name was to go back and find out where the artifact was.
Well, that, and I've never actually played an Assassin's Creed game.
What?
Oh, yeah, you know, there's like 12 of them out now, and every time I go on to Steam or something to think, maybe I should get into Assassin's Creed, and they go, well, do you want to play Assassin's Creed Odyssey? Do you want to play Assassin's Creed 2? Blah, blah, and I'm sitting there going, where do I start? Where do I start with this stupid series?
I hate to say it, man.
I could play any of them, and it'll be the same thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna get a lot of flack for saying that. But
is this like Call of Duty? I can pick up any of them; it'll be the same game.
Yeah, they're all AAA titles, and they're all the same game. You know what? You've played God of War.
Yes.
You've played Assassin's Creed.
Oh.
So
okay,
that's basically how it works.
Ouch.
Don't worry about it, man.
Okay,
let's carry forward. Stick with Stalker. Okay. Stalker's better.
If I want to stick with something that's the same thing every time, I'll just stick with Battlefield.
Battlefield, yeah, or Metro Exodus if you want to get a little risky.
Right? Yeah,
it's still very similar, but.
One of the nice things when it comes to Alma just kind of tapping into genetic memory or whatever is that in addition to seeing what happens in other people's life and her understanding, coming to terms with Sam's actions and kind of coming up with an explanation for herself to be somewhat forgiving to him. I mean, we also get to see stuff that she had happen in her own life, like watching her parents fight and her maybe not necessarily understanding them because she hadn't gotten her implant yet, so she couldn't actually hear. And then when she does get to hear, and she doesn't, and she gets to she doesn't stay at the school for the hearing impaired anymore, and she goes to a regular school?
Cameron, you can say it. You can say school of the deaf. It's not a derogatory term.
Oh.
It's
okay.
Totally allowed. This is not the Aboriginals or savages. This is it's totally cool, man. It's on the signs. Like you see the you see the signs of the kid like with the ball running across the road, and underneath it says deaf. To let you know that they can't hear, so that way you're not like honking your horn, going, "Oh, stop! I'm going." They can't hear you. Like it's not like you get the guy who's driving by going, "Oh, deaf! Oh, deaf kids! How funny!" You know, making fun of them because they can't hear it. That's not the case.
Okay, all right. So when she, has to leave the school for the deaf, although that one just like kind of shows that. Alma can be kind of mean because her one friend from there, when she's leaving, her friend says, "I don't want you to go." And she says, "I love you." And Alma just like ignores that. Like, I understand they're kids, but it's still kind of nice to at least acknowledge when someone says something like that. Even if it's just as like, "I like spending time with you," it's still kind of nice to acknowledge that and just be like, "Yes, I'm going to miss you too." But she doesn't do that. She's just like, "I gotta go."
She gets it from her mom. That's a wasp mom influence thing,
What, not acknowledging other people's feelings?
Yes, absolutely. Because again, they don't matter.
Oh.
Only I do.
Yeah.
So she does, she absolutely gets the traits. And I mean, like, I'm not saying that Alma's a wasp parent or would become a wasp parent, but she still has to deal with that trauma of dealing with one, because you look up to your parents and you kind of want to be them, because as a kid you think that they know everything, they can do everything, they are everything. As far as you're concerned, they are basically a god, or they're each gods. Now, you want to idolize that and become that instinctually. So she probably took after her mom in that case.
Well, that is a little too bad, but I mean, we do also...
Absolutely. Totally agree with you on that.
But at the same time, we also do see that she is trying to come away from that, you know, with the, like, when we think about how she talks to the kids and how she doesn't necessarily dumb things down with them. Although she does sometimes, you know, shut the kids down if they're saying something silly, and she's just kind of like, that's not the point. Keep up with me here.
Yes. But she's not doing it maliciously. She's not doing it because she's the one who has the attention. She's doing it to make sure that they get what's important.
Right. Yes.
She's not doing it for herself. She's doing it for them.
Yes.
Again, that is not the WASP parent characteristic. Everything is for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
The family must be pristine, so that way my image is pristine.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, take a look at Encanto. Again, the grandmother was a WASP parent. She had her own traumatic reasons for why that was. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And I love that they show that. How generational trauma affects the whole family, not just the one person and the person it's torturing. It goes throughout the entire family. And they did an awesome job with that.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, this show, again, is just kind of showing that that's a thing. I would almost argue that you could write a solid essay on this entire show not being just about schizophrenia, but dealing with WASP family issues. Like, they have enough material in here that you could write a good paper about that.
And that's the thing that, again, is one of the reasons why I love the show, is because of the depth. And it's not like this is the first time we've seen something like this, because, again, this is from the same people that brought us BoJack Horseman.
Oh my god.
So, like...
I totally forgot about that. Like, I 100% forgot about that, because BoJack Horseman, again, yes, it goes through everything, talking about, like, Sarah Lynn's mother was a WASP mom.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she was, like, sleeping with the agents and that to, like, get her in, and she had the one guy that was, like, a photographer that was actually, like, taking pictures of her and that.
Well, and that's the one who becomes her stepfather, too, because
yeah,
that's the bear, and that's what the whole, that's why she knows about, like, what bear fur tastes like and things like, all right, I can't remember if it was
that was exactly it. She, like, tasted the fur and was like, oh, this is bear fur. How do you know? You know, my stepdad was a bear.
Yep.
And everything went quiet because they realized...
Oh, some of the things about Sarah Lynn are starting to make a little bit more sense now. I mean, within the context of everyone else in the room.
Yes.
Everyone who's watching hopefully had already kind of clued in by that point, and then it's just like, oh, yep, okay, that's another check mark.
I really want to watch the show again with my girlfriend because she loved BoJack Horseman, but she kind of refuses to watch it again.
Really? Oh,
yeah.
Is that because she's afraid of what she's going to think on watching earlier seasons?
No, that's not the case at all.
Really?
It's because she doesn't want to see Sarah Lynn die again.
Oh, yeah.
Spoilers! She liked Sarah Lynn so much. I think it's because she kind of sees Sarah Lynn as sort of like her sister, who's been having like a really rough time with everything. And she feels totally that she doesn't want to see that happen to her sister.
Yeah.
So because of that, she doesn't really want to rewatch it. It's forcing her to live something that she's afraid she has to see in real life.
Mm-hmm. BoJack Horseman, to me, especially now that it's done, and it, you know, things definitely changed quite a bit in the final couple seasons. I remember a lot of people having hesitation and wanting to go back and rewatch it from the beginning because they think, well, now that I know how much of a shitty person BoJack really turns into, am I going to enjoy it the same when I watch it back through there? And then I sit there and I go, okay, I don't know if you've been paying attention, but BoJack's always been a shitty person. Just because we get more reasons to understand how he became that way doesn't detract from the fact that he's a shitty person. And the things he does are not good. I mean, it's only, 5 episodes in when the first F-bomb is dropped from Herb? When he goes to apologize to him and he says, I don't accept your apology. And then he tells him to get the F out of his house.
Yeah. it's kind of like with one of the shows I've seen, Infinity Train.
Infinity Train?
Yeah.
What's that? I don't think I've heard of that.
We're putting that on the list.
Okay.
That is an amazing show, and I know you're going to love it. It's a Cartoon Network original, and it takes place on a train that has infinite carts that people show up on to work through their issues that they have. And it's really cool. That's all I'm going to say about it, and we'll get on that.
Okay, we'll add that to the list.
I guess I won't say what I'm going to say then, because I might just spoil something for you.
Oh. We do still have some important things to talk about, with this. I mean, I guess I have one final thing to talk about when it comes to Camilla, the mom. And it's, again, when she's going back and she's looking at, past stuff, I feel that it's kind of more sort of separating the difference between how her dad was and how her mom was. And so we see when they're on a family vacation and they're down in the Mayan Peninsula or somewhere, and they're just walking around and their dad's like, oh, hey, look at that. We have found El Baño del Rey, the Bath of the Kings, or something like that. I think that's what it was called. I might be recalling incorrectly, and I apologize for that. And so he's like, okay, so when our great-great-great-great-great-grandmother, father would have been using this pool, what would he been using it for? And of course the mom's like, we're Spanish, we're Spanish. And he's like, well, no, we have some indigenous ancestry in there. And it's like, yes, but people don't like natives, so, we're Spanish. But then he's like, anyways, whatever, moving on from that. What do you think they would have used this for? And it's like, well, what's wrong with it just being a bath? Nothing's wrong with it being a bath. Baths are fun. Okay, but, maybe it's a reflecting pool, or Alma's, whole thing about, you go under the water and you start washing the clothes and then you transport into another world. And he's like, sure, like, something like that. And Mom's just like, or it's a bath. And that's it. And that's fine. And Dad's just like, really? Really?
So this is that thing that I found that, like, this is probably that point where we have one parent who was like totally into things like D&D, and then the other parent was like, I don't know, they came from like the super Catholic background, or
like super like, Catholic, like they went
like
to
damn
mass.
near cultish.
Oh,
and they're
yeah.
like, like imagination is the devil's work. So my question is, why are they together? Like,
honestly, I think Alma's only like 10 or 11 or something when he passes away. So, they don't stay together that much longer after the fact. Relatively.
Talk about dark humor.
Relatively speaking.
They end up getting the divorce they've always wanted.
In a roundabout.
Till death do us part. You
know
what? That was it. That makes sense.
What?
Camilla killed him.
Not the guy from like the private enterprise who shows up and they're all like, we're not going to give you the research. And he's like, sorry, but this is not how this ends.
Red herring. It fits too well.
We're going to have to see when we get onto this. However, I also know that there is one other important thing that we need to talk about, which of course is the end of this episode, and Alma has come to accept what Sam did and all the kind of really gross things that happened because of the subterfuge. But then she comes out of the bathroom and she's just like, no, you're right. I'm going to ignore what my dad said about relationships are hard, so just don't do them. And I'm instead going to fight for this relationship because I do actually still like him. And then she just comes out and she says what you said she shouldn't have done with the psychiatrist. My dead dad is seeing me as a ghost, and he's training me to travel in time so that I can go back and stop him from dying.
Yeah, I mean, how can I say this without, like, totally making it sound like that you shouldn't trust psychologists and counselors and all
that. Get therapy, but also do not believe what they tell you to do.
No. So, from a story standpoint, this makes sense. I mean, she is a minority, and she's dealing with... Okay.
So, like, with the psychiatrist, it's not that she doesn't trust her, but at the same...
So...
But, I mean, it's Sam, right?
Exactly. This is a person that she has a relationship with, she can understand, and kind of understands her, too. Like, to a point. By all means, sure, she's going through this huge change, and it's scaring the crap out of her. But from a narrative standpoint, she needs somebody to help her out with this.
So that's a good person to go to.
Remember, everybody, this is the story I'm talking about. This is not what I recommend you do. Trained professionals are there to help you.
Absolutely.
They're not there to hurt you. As this story is portraying and showing me that I'm saying. So in this case, she goes to Sam because she can trust Sam. Because even when she told Sam to leave, he still stayed for her, which counts for something. Okay? Sure, it's creepy as everything.
Right.
But he was still there for her. So he decides to tell her, and I think that was the right thing for her to do.
So...
Because the way I see it is emotionally and mentally, she's trying to climb the stairs with a bunch of small things in her arms. Not just her hands, but her arms. She couldn't find something to put them all in to bring them up, and she has to bring them all up. She needs somebody there to be like, hey, look, we don't need to worry about a few of these. I can carry some of these other things for you, make the load a little bit easier, now let's go.
So I guess my question, which we're probably going to see when we watch episode 6, is what do you think Sam should do? Should he trust her, or should he trust her enough to go along with it, or what? And I mean, this is the big risk that she's taking, right?
So I think Sam should not trust her.
Should not trust her?
No, she should not trust her. But she should accept her. Now, there's a big difference between those two. Okay?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
What I'm saying is, by all means, she's coming up and she's saying some things that are pretty strange. I mean, if I walked up to you and I was like, hey, look, goats are like mushrooms. If I shoot a duck, I'm scared of toasters. Seems a little strange. Don't trust me. But just like I've learned, you do have to accept it and at least make them feel accepted, because that's the least destructive thing you can do. This was actually something that we've learned about in first aid back in like 2020, I think was the last time I took my course. When it comes to mental health things, and if you find somebody who's having like an episode,
right,
you're supposed to be assuring and accepting. You don't trust them. You don't go, everything's fine. Here, take my knife. Cut your steak.
Right.
No. You don't do that. But you say, hey, look, man, I get it. I see where you're standing, and it's scary. And you know what? I'm going to help you through this. Let's talk about this. You don't have to jump off this bridge. Just tell me about it. What's getting you down? Let's talk about this. So, I've always kind of had that with people. Again, I have that certain charisma about myself where people really do open up to me. And like small amounts of time too. Within half an hour of talking to me, I've had people just be like, you know, they've turned around and were like, I've done terrible things. I used to sell drugs, like even to kids and that. And like, I've done terrible things. I've walked with gangs. I've like drove people to where they've shot somebody in that. And my response to that is like, yeah, you have done terrible things. Are you still doing them? No. Good. Because you know why that's wrong, right? Oh yeah, I know why that's wrong. Yeah, don't go down that path. Be the change you want to see in the world. You know? And that makes them feel good, because then they kind of realize how far they were and where they are now. And it kind of gives you that idea of, you know, like, there's that term, for the road to mental health, you take one step at a time.
Yeah.
You take one step at a time, you keep going as far as you can, and then you're going to stop, and you're going to go, oh my God, like, it's so hard, can I go forward? And at that point, that's when you turn around and look how far you can.
Mm-hmm.
And then that reminds you, like, yeah, I've done...
Every step further,
and I've gone so far, I can keep going, and it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've had all sorts of... And in cases of spiritual things, like, I'm dealing with ghosts or stuff like that. It's
I have not experienced the ghosts that you tell me are in your parents' house, but I have had strange things happen in houses that I have lived in, so I believe it.
Yeah, so...
Or I accept it.
That's the thing, but like one story reminds me of like, the whole opening up thing is actually my uncle. He, there was one time he was rolling cigarettes. He used to make his own cigarettes. I forget what his wife was doing there. This was actually before he divorced. And he was rolling his cigarettes. I don't think he was listening to the radio or anything. He was quiet, which I can't stand, which is why this drives home even more about how it sticks with me.
Mm-hmm.
But he was there rolling his cigarettes, and he heard a voice. And that voice was, go check on your daughter. And he kind of like looked around, thought about it, and was like, I don't know. So he just had a kid a few months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like at home watching the kid because it was night. And so he just continued rolling his cigarettes, and about 5-10 minutes later, I don't know how long, but after some time, he heard a voice again. Go check on the kid. Go check on your daughter. And he's just like, looks around, kind of did a little bit of a walk of the house, and was like, I swore I heard something, but I don't know. So he went back to rolling his cigarettes. Again, a little moment later, he heard, go check on your daughter. Now he's really freaked out. So he gets up and he goes and checks on his daughter. And he actually walked in, and she was in her crib, face down, suffocated in the pillow.
So, I guess if he had gone the first time, then maybe he would have gotten there in time? Maybe?
I don't know. He doesn't know.
Who knows, yeah.
So this is one of the things that he's actually like showing me. He was recording his life story because he had cancer. He knew it was terminal. He wasn't going to live through it. So he was recording everything. And this was one of the things that he showed me. And it was one thing that will always stick with me.
I feel how that would probably stick with lots of people, because that's just... I don't even really know how to react to hearing that. And I have heard some, not spooky, but similarly just kind of, how do you explain it type things.
Exactly.
How do you really conceptualize that?
And like you could totally tell that he didn't just make this up, because he was sobbing when he told that story on that recording.
I feel like when you're on your deathbed and you're recalling stories, that's not something that you just make up.
No, not really.
I don't know. Like, I know a few people in your family, and I don't necessarily feel that there probably are people in your family that may want to sensationalize stuff, but this isn't something
my family's
that
full of people who sensationalize things, but they do it for the humor.
Yeah.
They don't do it to prove a point or to like tell their story.
Exactly. Whereas this is just, this is almost like one of those things that you bring to confession because you have no idea how else to really get it out there. And but you have to tell somebody.
In a sense, to bring this back on topic, this is what Alma needs Sam for.
Right.
Because she is going through a very traumatic time. And this brings us all back onto the whole narrative.
Right, with her being an unreliable narrator, right?
Yes. This scares her a lot. She's going into territory that nobody has ever done before.
Mm-hmm.
How is she supposed to do this? How can this guy help her? He's dead. He failed. How am I supposed to get from this, right? It's terrifying. Like,
it's an interesting way to think about it, with just saying he's dead, therefore he failed.
He did. He absolutely. He was trying to get the research to be where she is.
Right.
He's dead. He never got there.
Right. That
this is
makes
like
sense. Yeah.
In D&D terms, I'm going to say it. This is the Tomb of Horrors. Because in the Tomb of Horrors, it is not a tomb designed for you to live. This is not the Tomb of Annihilation, you guys. This is the Tomb of Horrors. This is first edition D&D.
Yep.
Where the whole point is to make your party suffer. Or no, sorry, not your party. Make your players suffer. Through all sorts of things, like, oh, you walk through this one area where there's a skeleton, like, laying down, kind of pointing towards. You walk through there. Okay, your gender changes and your alignment changes.
Just like that.
Okay, well, I walk back through and I walk through again. Okay, you lose all of your equipment and your alignment changes and you're back at the start. You're still a girl. You have to come back and walk through it one more time to change into a girl, change back to your regular alignment or regular sex. It's literally just to torture players. This is like the, I think they call it the lock parasite or the lock worm, which is
the ones where if you go to listen at the door, right?
Yeah, you listen at the keyhole, it crawls into your ear, and you have to take a Constitution save throw to like not die.
Yep.
Yeah, this is exactly what it is. Like, this is the whole point.
You will suffer for trying to think that you could outplay me at my game.
Yes, but this is again, to get back on track. This is Alma trying to deal with her unreliable narrative, and she needs him to do so.
Yeah,
she does.
And I mean, in this case, she perhaps can move away from using, like, the blackjack game, for example, by having an actual real person who knows everything that she's going through. By having that confidant, that means that you at least perhaps have someone, I suppose, that can help guide you through. Maybe. Well, I mean, we won't know until we watch more episodes to find out how this is going to unravel.
Exactly. We're going to have to do that then.
Exactly. So, when we come back to Undone the next time, we're going to finish it off with episodes 6, 7, and 8. We're going to find out if Alma is able to unlock the secrets of time and space, or I don't know, something like that.
We'll find out if she manages to get to the Rock of Gibraltar.
We'll see you next time.
Have a good one.